Beginning in 1992, and I think it went through maybe even 94, or maybe it was signed in 93. I forget the exact date. There was a thing called the Libsyn Pact, I think it was, or the Libsyn Agreement or the Libsyn Treaty, where Ukraine, who inherited thousands of nuclear warheads, serious stuff, they had thousands of nuclear warheads that they inherited from the old Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union broke up after the Cold War, they inherited thousands of those nuclear warheads. Bill Clinton, negotiating with the Russians in the early 1990s, eventually reached, guys, look it up, I forget what it was, a Libsyn Pact or Libsyn Treaty or something, and basically, Ukraine, with Bill Clinton negotiating, and Russia, Ukraine decided that they were going to dismantle their nuclear warheads and turn them back over to the Soviet Union, which obviously weakened Ukraine, but the agreement was that NATO and Germany and America would always back Ukraine with our nuclear arsenal.
Hey, don't forget to hit the share button and be the Paul Revere's of the InfoWar. Thanks for watching Band.video. Spread the word.
Yeah, there's footage of Joe Biden. He returned late this morning. Usually by 9 a.m. they've called a lid on him, but he didn't return from vacation until 9 a.m. this morning, a weekend in Delaware. You know, after he helped potentially start World War III, he takes a vacation while the world burns. Must be nice to be Joe Biden. And he's seen walking across the White House lawn, and he can barely even walk, folks. And they're saying, hey, why is Biden ignoring the media, asking him questions about Ukraine and Russia? Why is he ignoring them and walking across the lawn? Folks, if he doesn't focus every ounce of his energy on not falling down, he will fall down. If he tried to zigzag or talk to the media and walk at the same time, he would fall over. He struggles just to walk in a straight line. The grass provides him too much resistance. He's got the dementia Parkinson's walk, folks. But that's not even the point here. Now, I have to tell you, I feel, it's not like I feel pressure, like, oh, it's a clutch situation of feeling pressure. No, I feel the burden of trying to accurately report on what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, because it's almost impossible to find accurate coverage anywhere else. I mean, very few people in the media are actually, in my view, giving fair and accurate coverage to what's going on in Ukraine. And that includes a lot of people that usually don't fall for the propaganda, a lot of people that are usually spot on with most of their political commentary, but the propaganda with this one is heavy, and when it's war at stake, it's even heavier and harder to push through the propaganda when you're being faced with war. Not to mention the aspect of, we already have political prisoners in this country. You go against the establishment, if they want war with Russia and you say, no, I don't, they're going to come lock you up and call you a Russian agent. You just do fair coverage on Russia and Ukraine, and you just don't say, hey, just blindly, oh, go Ukraine, I stand with Ukraine, and not understand the situation. They're going to call you a Russian agent, you're going to get disappeared. That's where this goes. If it gets to the next level and we get into war with Russia, do you really think they're not going to claim everyone that they view as their political opposition a Russian agent and disappear them? Even if you were pro-Ukraine, they'll still disappear you. That's the level of corruption we're dealing with in this country. But then I'm supposed to be more concerned about Ukraine than what I'm actually dealing with in this country, where now my entire family gets politically persecuted. But I'll have that coming up later. Yes, everybody stands with Ukraine. Which, again, you see Russia attacking, you see the bombs, you see the media. I mean, yeah, that seems like the obvious and easy choice. So most people just go take the easy road, and they don't do the research to understand what's really going on. So I'm going to do my best to explain what I think is the real story that's going on. But I would start it by saying this. You have to ask yourself a question. Is there such a thing as legitimate war? Meaning, if you start a war, do you have a good reason? I'm anti-war. I would guess most people are anti-war. But are there wars that need to be fought? Are there wars that have to be fought? Are there legitimate wars with good reasons behind them? And if you believe that, then you have to ask yourself, is Russia conducting a legitimate war? First, let's go back and recall some of the things from Putin's speech, which, by the way, Putin has given, I think, 3 or 4 speeches, including, I think, one today or yesterday, again, saying, look, hey, you can say what you want about us and everything, but you realize what the West is doing, right? You realize it's the West bringing in global communism. You realize it's the West wanting a global government. You realize it's the West with the transsexuals and making your kids gay and chopping their balls off. That's just all true. He's like, the West meddles in foreign elections. The West invades, the West bombs, the West attacks all day long, but Russia is the bad guy? But see, that's the problem with the language barrier and the media blackout is we don't even know where Putin is really coming from. We don't even understand his stance on these issues. You just get the pro-Ukraine propaganda, which should tell you something. When you have Marina Abramovich and the entire establishment saying, I stand with Ukraine, and the Democrat Party, I mean, all the most evil entities that we deal with, and they're telling you got to stand with Ukraine, I mean, just right there is your sign to maybe start questioning things. Doesn't mean you're against Ukraine or the Ukrainian people, just means, hey, I know these people are known liars and evil. I'm not going to trust blindly everything they tell me to, or anything for that matter. So Russia, Putin said in his original speech the other day, again, saying, hey, here's what the West is doing that I'm trying to stop Ukraine from doing. You Ukrainians should understand this. And I'm sorry that NATO and the West has used Ukraine as a human shield against us, Russia, and used you as a forward operating base and used you as a human shield for all these years. I'm sorry that that's the case, but historically, Russia is with Ukraine. And we're going to make sure it stays that way. And that you don't go into NATO and you don't go into the EU and you don't get run by corrupt Western entities. And he even said it was going to be a Russian holy war or a Russian holy crusade. Well, what does that mean? Well, historically, Ukraine was Russia. And you could even say that Russia came out of, historically, that region through Kiev and Crimea into Moscow. And I even believe at one point Moscow was the Christian capital of the world. And so whether you believe Putin or not, Putin has said this is a Christian-Russian holy war. We're going to take back what was originally Russia. We're going to keep them out of the corrupt EU. We're going to keep them from chopping off their babies' genitals and sexualizing their kids and bringing in the pedophile drag queen story time and everything else they're doing. And we're going to reestablish Russia as a Christian stronghold on the planet. This is what he has said. Now, you look at the activities in Ukraine, folks, and you have to realize some things. Putin did not send the A team. He sent the junior varsity team. He sent a lot of young, first-time combatants. He sent outdated, sometimes even recommissioned military equipment. That's why you have all the markings on a lot of it. A lot of it's been recommissioned. They're not using their top generals. They're not using their top infantry. They're not using their top troops. They're not using their top soldiers. They're not using their top technology. Russia basically sent the JV team into Ukraine because if Russia wanted to, it could crush Ukraine tomorrow. But you notice it hasn't done that, and it's mostly just been military strikes on military operations and bases in Ukraine. I'm going to pick this back up on the other side. We'll be right back. So the questions are, do you believe there is such thing as legitimate war, not false flagging countries into war for extraordinary benefits that aren't in the country's best interest? And is Russia conducting a legitimate war in Ukraine? And so where I left off, and this is honestly, we've come to this crazy point now. It wasn't always like this, but it's so hard to carry on the momentum and the thoughts in the breaks of the radio. And that's why I think every day Alex is thinking about just cutting breaks and just doing podcast formats. But we just have so many big radio stations picking us up. We can't really do that right now. And that's such a key way to get this intel out. Because it's harder for them to just shut down radio towers than shutting down access on the internet. But let me just pick up where I left off here. Russia could easily wipe Ukraine off the map if that was Russia's intention. It wouldn't be hard. It would take 24 hours, and that would be it. And Russia could move in, and that would be that. Russia's not doing that. Russia's not targeting critical infrastructure. Russia's not targeting major metropolitan areas. Russia's not targeting civilians. Now, have there been some skirmishes and some explosions and stuff in those areas? Yes. Was that Russia? You know what? I don't know. Because there's still proxy groups that were operating out of Ukraine that were CIA-backed, like the neo-Nazis in eastern Ukraine, where the mainstream media tells you they don't exist. No, they exist. The leftover Nazis. You don't think that pisses Russia off? Millions of Russians died in World War II. Millions of Russians died when they took Berlin. I mean, Russia helped, if maybe the number one factor in defeating the Nazis. And then this break-off group of Nazis settles with Western backing right on the border of Russia. So that's been a thorn in Russia's side for a while. Putin's decided to do something about it. And then he just comes out and he just says, look, we've got these neo-Nazi groups, Western-backed, in eastern Ukraine. We're taking them out. And they say they don't exist. But then anybody that voted Trump they claim is a Nazi, even though that's completely ludicrous with no proof, and it's just insanity. It's just a lie. It's just a known lie is what it is. And then actual neo-Nazis, Aryan Brotherhood groups, Western-backed in eastern Ukraine, they say don't exist, even though they take pictures posing with their Nazi flags and waving them and everything. But so I'm getting off track. The point is, Russia's military operations have been targeting Ukraine's military bases and establishment, Air Force bases, what have you, military arsenals. I mean, again, it's hard to know what is the reality with this stuff or not, but it seems it's been mostly successful. Yeah, there's been some citizen uprising, and there's been some grassroots uprising, and there have been some skirmishes, and there's been death on both sides, no doubt. But for the most part, Russia has pretty much destabilized and neutralized Ukraine's military. So Russia could crush Ukraine if it wanted to. It doesn't. It's not. It was clearly a military operation to handicap their military and weaken NATO's ability to operate and push them back. And Russia is using its outdated, recommissioned military equipment, and it's using first-time infantrymen and inexperienced generals to conduct this. It's basically the JV team. So, okay. Well, how is Ukraine still fighting? How is Ukraine still in the fight? How is Ukraine saying we're going to go on? Well, because Ukraine is Western-backed. So they get billions of dollars from the West. They get billions of dollars from Europe, billions of dollars from U.S. They get anti-tank, anti-aircraft missiles. They get arms and ammunition. It's all coming from the West, us. So it's not a stretch to say that Ukraine is Western-backed. That's the fact. So Ukraine is Western-backed. Well, the West is globalist-backed. So let's reason our way through this logically. Even if you wanted to say Putin was at war with Ukraine, which I don't see it that way, he's at war in Ukraine with the globalists because Ukraine is Western backed, the West is globalist backed, and so Putin is actually at war with the globalists. And that's what this is about. Now, I'll get into the Gaddafi thing later, but this is where it ties in. Gaddafi wanted a free state. He wanted a free states of Africa. Gaddafi wanted Africa to have its own currencies, its own banks, all gold-backed, and their own independence and sovereignty and prosperity. That's what Gaddafi wanted in Libya. So what did the West do? They killed Gaddafi, and they bragged about it. And we have all the emails that got leaked from Hillary Clinton's email servers with Sidney Blumenthal and all of them bragging about how they were going to kill Gaddafi because he wanted Africa to be a strong, independent nation. And for whatever reason, the West was not interested in that, and so they moved in and they killed him. And Hillary Clinton laughed and bragged about it. So Putin wants the same thing for Russia, and Russia is just a little more advanced as far as war and military capabilities are concerned. And I think Putin is a little more geopolitically strategic and knowledgeable and experienced than Gaddafi was. So Putin actually has a legitimate front against the globalists where Gaddafi never had a chance. And they just moved right in, wiped him out, covered it up, bragged about it, laughed about it. We got the emails, and nobody seems to care. I mean, Hillary Clinton should be in jail for war crimes with her State Department. And Sidney Blumenthal and all of them saying, we can't have an African United States with their own central banks and their own currencies backed by gold. We can't have that because they don't want their currencies backed by gold. And then they stole all the gold, by the way. Like $7 billion in gold was stolen from Africa. Where do you think it went? So Putin doesn't want his fate to be Gaddafi's fate, and he doesn't want Russia's fate to be Africa's fate, which is basically at the behest of, in many of the nations, not all of them, you see some of them going nationalist, but it's basically the concept of Russia as a sovereign nation. Russia is going to control its own destiny. Russia doesn't want to go back into the globalist communist. If they did go into communism, they'd want it to be internal. And NATO has been holding a gun to Russia's head for decades. And now Putin is turning the gun around and putting it to their head saying, how do you like it? Why is he doing it now? Well, the answer to that is obvious. Europe's leadership is weak. America's leadership is weak. And Biden gave him the strategic leverage he needed with the pipelines in order to do it. Now, you could say, is that Biden, whether wittingly or unwittingly, knowingly or unknowingly, is that Biden giving Putin the gun to eventually kill himself with? AKA, did Biden set Putin up? Now, Biden is obviously not near the political strategist or intellect to run something like that, but he could be used as the puppet to run an operation like that. Again, wittingly or unwittingly. So Putin says, oh, okay, we've got weak leadership in the West again. We've got weak leadership in Europe. Now I've got control of the oil flowing into the West. Perfect time for me to take Ukraine back. So that's what he does. And then above all that, you could even say, hey, maybe Putin's operating as part of a controlled operation for all of this to start World War III. Right now, I don't really see it that way, but that's what some people think. So, did Biden give Putin the gun to kill himself with when he gave him control of the flow of oil to the West, which may have been the final strategic leverage that Putin thought he needed to do a full movement militarily into and through Ukraine to pull the gun out of NATO's hands and put it to their head, which was the gun of Ukraine being put to Russia's head for the last 4 or 5 decades. Now, I'm probably going to go over an hour of coverage here today on the Russia situation, which I feel like I'm still getting the wag the dog treatment. But it's really just me trying to put the accurate story out there where you're just not getting it anywhere else. So Should Russia be my number one situation? Should Ukraine be my number one situation? I don't know. I mean, you could argue that it could start another world war. Really, it shouldn't be, because we shouldn't be involved in all. But because of we are, the implications are serious for us and the planet. But I mean, there's other news that is very important too that I'm going to get to coming up, but I have to continue to finish this coverage and then get into the latest headlines. So there's other things out there that people are not talking about. Like, for example, well, who were the last three Democrat presidents? Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and now Joe Biden. And under each one of them, Ukraine has been put into more of a volatile situation with Russia. Why is it always the Democrats? Beginning in 1992, and I think it went through maybe even 94, or maybe it was signed in 93, I forget the exact date, there was a thing called the Libsyn Pact, I think it was, or the Libsyn Agreement, or the Libsyn Treaty, where Ukraine, who inherited thousands of nuclear warheads, serious stuff, they had thousands of nuclear warheads that they inherited from the old Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union broke up after the Cold War, they inherited thousands of those nuclear warheads. Bill Clinton, negotiating with the Russians in the early 1990s, eventually reached, guys, look it up, I forget what it was, a Libsyn Pact or Libsyn Treaty or something, and basically Ukraine, with Bill Clinton negotiating and Russia, Ukraine decided that they were going to dismantle their nuclear warheads and turn them back over to the Soviet Union, which obviously weakened Ukraine. But the agreement was that NATO and Germany and America would always back Ukraine with our nuclear arsenal. So, the Libsyn Protocol, thank you. Signed in 1992 in Portugal. Bill Clinton in the negotiating with Belarus, Kazakhstan, Russia, and Ukraine. So, and went into effect 94. So, okay, Ukraine denuclearizes and then gives its burden of protection to NATO, to Europe, to America, therefore giving the West more control of Ukraine, turning it into a vassal state, weakening Ukraine on the global stage so that they could continue to use it as a vassal state for their corruption and basically a human shield for Russian aggression if they started moving westward. So it's always the Democrats in office when this is going on. Now, these are just rumors. They were rumors at the time, but when Russia was moving south with Belarus just a week ago into Chernobyl, and you had all the people saying, look at how stupid Putin is. He's going into Chernobyl. Or look at how evil Putin is. He's stopping the Ukraine's nuclear power plant. It just shows how dumb people are. Chernobyl is not operating power into Ukraine. And Putin is not stupid. He wouldn't go into Chernobyl for no reason. So at the time, it was rumored that Ukraine did not get rid of all its nuclear arsenal, but hid some of it underneath the Chernobyl fallout, where it could easily be covered up because there's always going to be the radiation level spiking there, so you could easily just hide nuclear weapons under there and nobody would notice. Did Putin go into Chernobyl to see for himself if that was the case? And I wonder, if so, what they found. See, you don't hear about any of that, do you? You don't hear about the things that got us into this situation, do you? You don't hear about the fact it's always Democrats in office that put Ukraine in a more compromising and weak position geopolitically. They don't tell you about the neo-Nazi groups. They don't tell you about Putin saying he's launching a Russian holy war. They don't tell you about the history of Crimea or Kiev or Moscow or Ukraine and Russia. They all jump up and they say, I stand with Ukraine, you better too, Russia bad, Putin bad. And then the lemmings and the brainwashed masses hop on board the narrative. And it's quite sad, actually. So you have to understand, when Marina Abramovich and the entire establishment, the same people that hate America, the same people that hate our freedom, the same people that hate you, the same people that lie about you, lie about Donald Trump, lie about America, lie about everything, and they're the ones promoting Stand With Ukraine, sorry if I'm going to be a little skeptical of that. Sorry if I'm going to be a little skeptical of Zelensky, who's a former actor. And you know, I have folks sending me this and I've looked at it. I don't even want to play it. I don't even want to cover it because I can't even believe it's real. But it's like old TV shows and music videos that Zelensky used to do as like leather daddies with gay dudes and playing the piano with his genitalia. And then there's like, you know, scenes from the old show he did. I forget the name of it. What was it called, guys? The old show he did where he's a teacher who has a viral rant in the classroom that a kid just happens to catch on video and shares on the internet. It goes so viral, he ends up becoming the president because of it. Servant of the people, thank you. And then there's this of him shooting up the entire government. And look, I mean, a lot of this stuff is evolving, and I thought maybe Zelensky cut a deal with Putin, but then when you see what he does today, that makes no sense. He's saying, "Hey, we want to join the EU." I mean, that's a slap in Putin's face. That's saying, "No, we're really going to stand against you, Russia. We're not going to work with you at all." So that's only going to make the situation worse. But you understand that the literal, almost to a T plot of his TV show is now the life he's living. The common man becomes the president of Ukraine, and then he hires all of his friends to be his administration. That's exactly what Zelensky did. Funny enough, I kind of wish that's what Trump had done instead of bringing in the swamp that he did. But in the show, Zelensky gets rid of all the establishment politicians and hires his friends, and then he did the exact same thing in real life. So what are the odds of that? So that's just some of the backdrop you're not going to see anywhere else. Here's the most recent headlines. Russia vetoes UN Security Council resolution that denounces its invasion of Ukraine. No surprise there. Here's the significant takeaway. Russia on Friday vetoed a United Nations Security Council resolution denouncing its invasion of Ukraine, while China, India, and the United Arab Emirates abstained from the vote. So that tells you China's given Putin the thumbs up probably, and India and the UAE have at least enough of a historical understanding of everything that they don't want to get involved. That's significant geopolitically. Biden administration wants $6.4 billion for Ukraine. So, folks, what is the point of NATO at this point? Why does NATO even exist if we have to continue to give more arms and ammunitions and more money to Ukraine? What is the point of NATO? Isn't this what NATO is for? I guess this shows you how useless NATO is. I guess Trump was right about that too, wasn't he? Trump said, why are we spending all this money on NATO when it's useless? I guess we're seeing how useless NATO is right now. But then again, if it wasn't for Western backing, Ukraine would probably already be smashed. President Zelensky signs letter and appeals to EU for immediate inclusion into the Union. That's, you know, if Zelensky was a Putin puppet, that would be Putin trying to speed the process up. If Zelensky is not a Putin puppet, that would be Zelensky making his stand saying, no, we're going to be a Western-backed nation. We're not going to be loyal to Russia. So, and then again, when it's Marina Abramovich and all the corrupt people, the corrupt Western establishment promoting Stand With Ukraine, I have to be skeptical. An attack on Ukraine is an attack on humanity and has to be stopped. says Satanist Marina Abramovich in a message of solidarity with Ukraine. When Marina Abramovich supports something, I'm beyond skeptical. All right, I'm going to try to get through all of these headlines and then move on to the rest of the news here. Representative Eric Swalwell, the guy that was sleeping with the Chinese spy who's on the U.S. intelligence agency. How this guy's still in Congress is criminal, really. Eric Swalwell suggests kicking every Russian student out of U.S. universities. First of all, what a jerk. Second of all, what an ignorant statement. But this is like him and Mark Warner basically saying, kick all the Russians out, arrest the Russians, kick them out of universities, kick them out of your businesses. Do you not realize how totalitarian you've become? No, I guess the Democrats haven't, and they continue down that path. Adam Kinzinger, this is the guy on the January 6th committee. He's going to get to the bottom of it. He shared an image of the ghost of Kiev, which now people are wondering if that even happened, kind of like the Snake Island story. By the way, Zelensky released, according to CNN, so CNN may have lied about this, but CNN claimed in a quote that it was Zelensky who confirmed the Snake Island story. Well, it turns out the Ukrainians on Snake Island are not dead. Remember, it was told that they were killed by the Russians. They stood their ground and got killed by the Russians. Turns out that was fake. They're alive. And it was CNN quoting Zelensky who first said they were dead. So who's lying there? But no, it's Adam Kinzinger sharing a meme of the ghost of Kiev, which is a Sam Hyde meme. Sam Hyde is just a comedian, satirist, who has this goofy face put on all these memes and all these different situations. It's a funny thing. And Adam Kinzinger is so bright. He's so smart. He found the ghost of Kiev, except it was fake. So, it's an interesting thing with all the fake videos we've seen. And by the way, folks, literally everyone is falling for these fake videos. From members of Congress to mainstream news. Fake guns, airsoft guns, cardboard guns. Literally videos and images from 2008 and 2016, and they're sharing them like they just happened yesterday. Where are all the fact checkers? Where are all the fact checkers? Isn't that amazing? So they were fact checking masks don't work and COVID made in a lab and vaccines ineffective, and they fact checked that, and if you said anything against that, they banned you on social media. But you share all the fake crap coming out of Ukraine, no fact checking, no censorship, no banning. In fact, you even get promoted. Where are the fact checkers? No, because they're not fact checkers. They're Democrat activists who want to censor the political opposition of the Democrat Party. And if that isn't the most proof of the pudding you've ever seen, other than the fact it's all conservative Trump supporters are getting censored, as if that wasn't enough for you, as if you're still too stupid to realize it, why are there no fact checkers when it comes to all the Ukraine videos and photos? Why are there none? Because it's not in the Democrat Party's interest to do those fact checks. It's only in the Democrat Party's interest to fact check, fake fact check conservatives so that they have the justification and excuse to censor them off the internet and to silence their free speech. So, just more evidence that that was always political. FIFA and UEFA, the two big soccer organizations worldwide, suspend Russian teams from international football, or soccer here, as we say it in the West. Nice. They're still going to take their oil, though. Still will take their oil, won't they? What about China? How do we feel about the Chinese forced labor camps, the Chinese genocide? We're going to ban China from international soccer? No. We're going to ban China from the Olympics? No. In fact, they're going to host the Olympics, but we're not going to let them fly a Russian flag at the Olympics. Folks, you got to understand, whether you like Putin or hate Putin, whether you like Russia or hate Russia, the globalists hate Russia. Russia is the biggest obstacle right now in the globalist way. Most of America's leaders have signed off to the globalists. They've signed on to the New World Order. They're bought and paid for. not as bad as it. So why do the globalists hate Russia so much? Because they look at it as a threat. All right, I've still got more news to cover here out of Ukraine and Russia. I promise I'm going to get through it and get to the other big news that is probably more impactful in the short term than all the stuff in Russia and Ukraine. At least we hope. Before I get back to that, though, ladies and gentlemen, Vitamin D Plus, Winter Sun Plus, our elite vitamin D supplement is back in stock at InfoWarsStore.com right now. It had been sold out, and luckily we were able to get a new shipment in. So take advantage of Winter Sun Plus, 50% off at InfoWarsStore.com. Don't forget about Brain Force Ultra. By the way, I placed an InfoWars store order today. Got myself a couple bottles of Brain Force Ultra because here's my Brain Force Plus bottle that I keep on my desk because I like taking Brain Force before the show. You hear that? No, you don't, because it's empty, because I finished up my bottle today. So I went and ordered some Brain Force Ultra. Actually, I was able to get a fresh bottle myself. Let's just say I got connections. Let's just say I got connections at the InfoWars store, so I was able to abscond with a bottle of Brain Force Ultra after my purchase. You'll have to purchase it and wait for it to come in the mail in a timely fashion. 40% off Brain Force Ultra, folks. Read all the reviews at InfoWarsStore.com. Find out what the people are raving about when it comes to Brain Force Ultra. So many great supplements. Not just that. I made all kinds of purchases at InfoWarsStore.com today. Like, for example, we have so many odds and ends that we just don't promote, and it's okay because they're not big sellers anyway. But there's just so much cool stuff on InfoWarsStore.com that you just don't even realize it's there until you go search for it. Like, we've got solar-powered Bluetooth wireless speakers made by Humvee that are like military grade. We sell bullet casing golf tees. So if you like golf, we sell golf tees. How about that one for you? Solar Bluetooth speaker, shock resistant, made by Humvee. Awesome. Long battery life, sleek look. Or golf tees. I was like, I'll go try some of our golf tees. I didn't know we sold golf tees. Tactical golf tees, pack of 50. I'll give those a review once I've used them. So there's just all kinds of great stuff at InfoWarsStore.com. The storable food, the water filters, the air filters, all the great supplements that are on a deep discount. We have the black long sleeve 1776 t-shirt back in stock, by the way. We really have had a hard time keeping that in stock. It is back in stock. I actually checked. There's a couple hundred left because I placed an order for one today. I'm the guy that's got the connections at InfoWars Store, and I couldn't even get the long sleeve black shirt. Finally was able to secure one today. There's a couple hundred left of the long sleeve 1776 black version at InfoWarsStore.com. Let's go, Brandon. Foam hand. Take it to your next ball game. Take it to your kid's ball game. Well, maybe not your kid's ball game. Take it to the WWE events. I mean, it has the middle finger foam. Remember when they had the Stone Cold middle finger foams? Those were awesome, weren't they? Well, we've got the Let's Go Brandon one. It's the best thing since. That's what we have at InfoWarsStore.com. It's your support there that keeps us on the air. All right. Let me try to put the rest of this Russia-Ukraine stuff behind me, recognizing that even I am guilty of the wag the dog, but it's really just a matter of there's so much misinformation, disinformation out there that you tune into InfoWars to sort through all of it. And so that's what we're doing here. This is the USA Today. Canadian truckers' COVID freedom fight is absurd next to Ukraine's struggle with Russia. Oh, wouldn't you like that? So Canadians fighting for their freedom and their sovereignty is absurd. Americans fighting for their freedom and their sovereignty is absurd. But Ukraine, we need to fight for Ukraine's sovereignty. We need to fight for Ukraine's borders. By the way, where's the pandemic gone? Anybody worried about COVID anymore? Anybody worried about COVID spreading as we fly military personnel all around the planet? And is COVID just not a thing anymore? I guess not. There is news on that. It looks like they maybe are giving that up. but quietly rolling out the vaccine passports still. Where did COVID go? Putin killed COVID when he went to Ukraine. So, but USA Today, your fight for freedom in America is nothing. Your fight for freedom in Canada is nothing. It's all about Ukraine. You think the U.S. should have a border? You're a xenophobic, racist bigot. Oh, you don't think Ukraine should have a border? You're a xenophobic, racist bigot. You think Canadians should have freedom? Do you even care about Ukraine? It's like, hey, look, I never plan to go to Ukraine. I don't know people in Ukraine. I hate war. I don't like to see that. But you know what? I got my own problems. It's kind of like your house is burning to the ground, but your neighbor has a clogged toilet, so you're going to go plunge their toilet while your house burns, and you come back, your house is ashes. You say, well, I just had to take care of that toilet clog my neighbor had. But they just hate you, don't they? Don't fight for your freedom. Fight for Ukraine's freedom. And not a single person that puts their bio with the Ukraine flag up, not a single one of them will go to Ukraine. Is that a failed Molotov cocktail throwing there? That's what it appears to be. Yeah, they're throwing Molotov cocktails at the Russian military in Ukraine. Probably not a smart idea, but it has been effective in some of these little skirmishes that they've been involved in. Adidas Group announces ban on shipments of tracksuits to China because of slave labor camps. Oh my gosh, really? No, I'm kidding. Adidas Group announces ban on shipments to Russia. Russia's the bad guy. Not China with the genocide and the forced labor camps. No, Russia, folks. Russia is the biggest enemy. Russia's the worst. Putin's the worst. Forget about Yemen. Forget about China. Forget about the political prisoners in the West and Canada and America. Forget about all of that and just focus on Ukraine. And so that's the key element to take away. Whenever all the corrupt establishment, all the globalist operations are telling you that this is the big issue, there's a reason for it. There's a reason they want you focused on it, and it's not for your benefit, it's for theirs. So we already highlighted the hypocrisy. Oh, Americans want a border? You're racist. But oh, Ukrainians want a border? They're heroes. And so the Democrats who want to take your guns, who want to infringe on your rights to own a firearm, and who do infringe on those rights, but they want to arm Ukrainians. Isn't that amazing? Occupy Democrats. Ukraine's interior minister announces that 10,000 automatic rifles have been handed out to the civilians of Kiev as they prepare to fight tooth and nail to defend their homes against Putin's invasion. Retweet if you stand with the brave Ukrainian people. And then there's another tweet after that. They're fundraising. They're saying, hey, help us get guns to Ukrainians. Oh, so Americans don't get a border and Americans don't get guns, but Ukrainians do. And the very people that tell you you don't get a border and the very people that tell you you don't get a firearm, they're going to arm Ukraine and protect their border. Again, that should tell you everything you need to know. Does that mean I support Putin invading? No. Does that mean I like the war and the death and everything? No. Does that mean I like the prospects of World War III that might come out of this? No, I don't like any of that. But I sure don't like the very corrupt politicians and media here telling me how to think and feel about the situation in Ukraine, especially after they've been proven to be total liars and hate me and my guts and everything I stand for and you stand for. I don't get a border. I don't get a firearm, but Ukraine gets firearms to protect their border. I mean, all this hypocrisy should have people's eyes and ears perked, like something is not right here. All right, I'm going to come back and cover this, and it'll have to be the last segment, but that I do the Ukraine-Russia stuff, but it's really important to realize. Who was one of the main funders of the anti-fracking movement in America? Russia. All you liberals fighting to end fracking and stop U.S. oil production, you know who bankrolled your protests? Russia. Do you feel stupid yet?
Rarely are people confronted or presented with a real 360 win or a non-zero sum game. But I can tell you, getting high quality, storable food from the top company in the United States that's ready to ship to you is a 360 win. We are in a total inflationary environment for the next 5-10 years, in my view. The globalists are devaluing all the major world currencies. Well, how do you get ahead of that? Well, you can buy real estate, but still you got to pay property taxes on that. There's a lot of problems. It's not easy to offload. But with things like high quality storable food that's packaged very, very well, that lasts more than a decade, it's insurance you can eat. And by buying food now, you get around the inflation because, again, the food doesn't cost more in the future. My Patriot Supply is the biggest company in the U.S. after only 15 years in business because of great quality and very low prices ready to ship. And when you go to preparewithalex.com, a subdomain of InfoWarsStore.com, you will find their full selection at the lowest prices anywhere out there. And that then also supports the broadcast. So you're getting high quality storable food at a very low price, ready to ship to you. You're funding InfoWars. You're keeping us on the air. You're getting insurance you can eat. And you, again, are getting it early so you beat inflation. A true 360 win. On the preparedness checklist, having high quality storable food is right up there at the top with self-defense, water, and transportation. So take care of that box now as the world goes into this deepening Great Reset crisis. Fund the info war, beat inflation all at one spot. Preparewithalex.com or 888-253-3139. Again, preparewithalex.com is a subdomain of InfoWarsStore.com. By visiting that, you go right to the page with the best deals on high quality storable food ready to ship.